Hi, everyone. Hello. Oh, I wanted... Wait. I wanted to show you all something, and then I totally forgot to bring it over here. I have to bring it over here. Wait. And now I actually have to leave space on my desk so that I can have a space to put it. Hold on a second. Wait. Okay, wait. Hi, everyone. Hello. Hey, I am Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole, and I am here late. But that's because I was distracted by really amazing conversations over in Discord, which, by the way, we have a Discord. You can join us. We were talking about, where's my cursor? Cursor? Do I even have a cursor? I don't even know. Maybe I don't even have a cursor. Well, I have a Discord. I cannot give you the code for the... Oh, wait, there it was. Ha! Thanks, PH. You did it for me. Thank you. So, hi, we were talking about a lot of things about Game of Thrones and how people argue about it and how do people argue about media in the universe. And then we got into a conversation about, I cannot see your cursor. Hey, Sea Spider Mix. Oh, I just have extensor tensosynovitis, where the extensor ligaments are producing too much fluid. They produce too much fluid, and so I cannot extend my fingers or extend my hand without actually, I cannot extend my hand at all, and I cannot extend my fingers without huge amounts of pain. So the doctor said I have to wear this brace for 2 weeks and also take this like super intense anti-inflammatory for 10 days, and this is day 5 of the anti-inflammatory. My fingers hurt a little bit still, but I'm just hoping by the end of the 10 days it'll be taken care of. And my shirt says dented, unbroken, undeterred. It is the t-shirt it's Random Tuesday's t-shirt. It was designed by a Firthiel. He designed the picture. It's sort of like a kind of an almost Lisa Frank-esque sort of style a little bit. And this is like my Random Tuesday t-shirt, and I wanted to wear it today. Cursors are for the weak. And I'm not going to start knitting soon. So we were talking about pantsers versus plotters. Like, how do you write? Do you pants or plot? And I want to have that conversation on stream in a second. But first, I want to do show and tell. Show and tell first. So the first thing, this is kind of amazing. Vulpes sent me a care package, and there's all this stuff in here. So the first thing is that what he sent me, how is this, is Weave, the RPG. So that's really cool. And I was like, this is so neat. I'm so excited for this because this is an RPG that I've been wanting to play for like quite some time. So how cool is that? But he had a bunch of other stuff at his house that and he's moving, I think. And so he decided to send me a bunch of this cool stuff, super random cool stuff. And I like random cool stuff. And so I want to share with you the random cool stuff that he sent me. So this is the Lord of the Rings tarot deck and card game. So that is cool. Also, a game called Bad Behavior 101, which is flashcards for mastering college's greatest tradition. So I'm a college professor, so that's exciting. I'm excited by that. Hello, Shep Exo. Oh, I'm glad you're feeling better. And then this robot tarot deck, which is really exciting because there are a number of processes, ideas of how to use tarot decks for RPGs. And so this is all in Italian, and it's about robots. So how cool is that? I'm excited for this. So you get my unboxing stream today. I also have, because why wouldn't I want this? This is how amazing is this? Vampire in a Box, which you gave Lauren her copy of Weave. Nice. So this has fangs and also fake blood capsules, which is awesome. Okay, also some RPG stuff. Whoop. Oh. All right, so check it out. Deadlands Ghost Dancers. Now, I will point out that I have got Deadlands, I've got GURPS Deadlands, and of course I do. And I also have Deadlands on PDF. Can I read Italian? My Italian is not good. But, and then Martial Law, which is a very cool GM screen. And then some really cool things from Free RPG Day. So Unknown Armies, Maria in 3 parts. So an adventure for Unknown Armies. Volpez, I'm just talking about how cool this stuff is. Dungeon Crawl Classics, the Quick Starter and Intro Adventure. I'm Chat. Hi, Chat. I'm Shep. Hey, Shep. How are you doing? Is this your favorite channel on Citadel? Look at this. Tunnels and Trolls Adventures Japan, which for Free RPG Day, which I'm so excited about because you probably can't see it because it's actually off screen. It's actually, no, you can see it right there. Tunnels and Trolls. Whoop. So this is super convenient because look at that. And then Numenera, Ashes of the Sea for Free RPG Day. This is so cool. Now, how awesome is this? Overlight, which was being run by Eliza Pearl on Geek and Sundry, and I was really excited about that system, so that is really cool. And then Pathfinder, We Be Super Goblins. Yes, which I think is awesome. And then I'm saving the most exciting thing for last, by the way. So here's a Cyberpunk 2020 novel, which I'm very excited about. Some very cool graphic novel, and the art is really neat. So 2001 Nights, story and art by Yukinobu Hoshino. And take a look at that art. Like, that art is amazing, right? So, and there are 3 of these graphic novels, 2001 Nights, which I am also excited about. And now, this is the last thing that Volpez sent me, which tells you that Volpez knows me. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's not the last thing. Sorry. That's not good. Also in here, a dice bag with some super cool dice in here, like dice with color, which I think that's like so cool, and then round D6s and a die with Darth Vader, but then also lightsabers on it. And this is like such a nice color, so very cool dice. Oh, this one has got guns on it, old style pistols and swords. One of the designers for Overlight is a games retailer. He's part of a consortium of retailers that recently purchased Free RPG Day. Oh, that's cool. That is really cool. Also, look, a great dragon. So someone's gonna be attacked by a dragon, clearly. So here's the thing that Volpez sent me, which is clearly for me. And like, you might think, vampire teeth, that's for Trooper. Dice, totally for Trooper. RPG stuff, also for Trooper. But he also sent me this collection of 78 discs, 78 RPM discs. And so this is cool because who does not like 78s? But check it out. you're not gonna be able to see this. This one here, oh, let me make it so that it might in some way be readable. Here, let me, hold on. This is so cool. Okay, are you ready for this? I don't think you're ready for this jelly. All right, so give me a second. What? You probably cannot read it. Oh, wrong side. So here is side by side Primo Scala's Banjo and Accordion Orchestra with the keynotes. We have a 78 here with a banjo and accordion orchestra. And if you don't think that I love the idea of a banjo, of having a 78 of a banjo and accordion orchestra, then you don't know me, because the idea of a banjo and accordion orchestra is the best thing in the world, and I kind of can't handle it. It's amazing. Volpez, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. I'm so excited. I'm so excited by this. These are very cool. I do not have a Victrola, but I have access to means of playing 78 records. So that is, I'm gonna put this right here where it will be safe, because I want it to stay safe. So how cool is that? Thank you, Volpez. I appreciate you taking this opportunity to downsize and hand me some really cool things that I'm very excited to read. And it's the summer, so I get to. This is like so cool. And I get to be a vampire. So, whoop. That is awesome. Thank you. Yep, those are records, and these are 78 records, as a matter of fact. When I was a kid, oh yeah, I would totally have use for these in classes. Yeah, speaking of which, I really do want, hey Pumpkin, I really do want a Victrola. I mean, like, you can play a 78 on, like, the record player I had growing up as a kid was one of the sort of portable record players, and you could do 78s, 33s, or 45s on them. So it was like a multi-speed record player that you could play anything on. So, like, I could really easily get a record player that would allow me to play 78s, 45s, or 33 1/3s, no problem. But I want a Victrola because I think that would be so great for class. I could bring in the Victrola, wind it up, and then play it for them. But what I really want is, I would like to be able to actually record discs, because, you know, the old way that you would record records is you'd put that big Victrola disc on with a needle, and you'd put it on a blank disc that had not, like a blank wax disc that didn't have anything on it, and then you'd sing into the bell, and then the sound waves would go into the bell and would cause the needle to vibrate, which would etch the sound onto the disc. So if you wanted to record something, you'd have to sing into this bell. And I would love to be able, I would love to have a recorder that way, so that I could show the students how songs were recorded in the past. And if you wanted to have, say, 100 copies of a song, you'd have to sing it 100 times. So I would love that. That would be so cool. Anyway, I want a Victrola. And I feel like I can get one, but I feel like I shouldn't get one until after I move. So that is a thing. Ice Bunny has a question to ask. Can you play banjo when you know? No, they're different instruments. PH, I also want a Zigga Zig Ah. That is also true. So when I was a freshman in high school, a friend of mine had a Victrola. It's how I first heard Billie Holiday's. Oh, you first heard Billie Holiday's Gloomy Sunday on a Victrola? What? How amazing is that? That would be amazing. So guitars and banjos are different. They're not the same. I play the banjo, but I do not play guitar, because they have different. They're just played very, very differently. There are people who are guitar players who want to sound like they play the banjo, and so what they do is they buy a guitar that has a banjo body, so it will sound like a banjo, but they can just use their guitar skills. The origins of the banjo. The banjo comes from Africa. There are a couple of different instruments that people think are the sort of the antecedent of the banjo. I just gave a paper on this just like last semester. There's a Senegambian instrument and there's another instrument. Oh my gosh, why is my brain just freezing on me? The unconting. The unconting is an instrument that is like the current what's the word? Front runner for like what is the antecedent of the banjo, but there's actually debate about it because there's a family of unconting makers who are like the banjo comes from the unconting, but there are these other people from a different country who are like, hold on a second, actually we're also involved in this. So there are a couple of different instruments from West Africa that out of which the banjo came. The banjo and the kazoo, there is a connection. Blame them. I will blame the meds. I will have a guitar I'll pass on to my niece. I was never patient to learn an instrument. The meds are not helping. They make me a little fuzzy-headed. The banjo and the kazoo are connected in this one way, Paladin. If you want to know a connection between them, I do have one. The connection is that there was a style of music called jug band music that was popular at the turn of the century, and it sort of got supplanted by the blues. So like you had jug band music and then later sort of blues took over, and it was popular in the mountains and in the South. It was popular with African Americans, but then sort of got popular more generally. And the instrumentation for a jug band would be banjo, kazoo, washtub bass, washboard. So washboard, washtub bass, jug, banjo, kazoo. Those would be like your sort of classic, and maybe a fiddle, but very often maybe a fiddle, maybe. So like that's what you're looking at in terms of hey Evie, it is so good to see you. That's what you're looking at in terms of instrumentation. I would play some jug band music for you, but they'll just delete it off of Twitch, and that makes me sad. Oh, spoons, yes, also spoons, Falcon of Venom. Yeah, spoons as well. We made it. No, we made. Oh, so Drummer Boy, that is so true. And actually, now there. First off, you can get patience and still learn an instrument. People learn instruments at older ages. Drummer Boy, I was going to say that there's actually this thing that's quite an issue now, is that the UNESCO, the UN, now recognizes cultural heritage. I will tell you, Sea Spider. So they recognize cultural. So basically, a country can kind of vaguely copyright a tradition or have a tradition recognized as their tradition. You know, like we do shadow puppet theater, right? But the thing about the UN is that only one country can claim credit for this tradition because we organize everything by nation states. So a thing has to be a Chinese tradition, or it can be a Korean tradition, but it can't be both, which means, but of course that's not how culture works, because the borders we have now are not the borders we've always had, and things move. And so there are these big debates that happen about which country will be able to get which tradition recognized by the UN as their tradition, which is kind of messed up. It's super messy. It is super, right, because cultures don't stop at national borders and people move, right? And so it's a cool thing to recognize traditions, but it's also complicated because our idea of nation states are sort of artificial, right? So, hey, Cert Saiyan, welcome in. How are you? There was a question, which is the difference between a violin and a fiddle. And the short answer is that there is no difference between a violin and a fiddle, except how you play, but that's also not true. So basically, there's no difference between a violin and a fiddle in terms of their construction. That's not true, but it's basically true. There is one, so how they're played is different. So for example, fiddle players tend to play, actually they're even tuned the same way for the most part. They're even tuned the same way, but I would say some of the differences are that the bow, a fiddle player will often have the bow, the horsehair on the bow looser, not as tight. A fiddle player is going to play closer to the bridge. So if you've got, if you imagine a violin, right? It's got the long neck and the strings come up and they come over a bridge and they attach to the end of the violin. Oh, 23andMe is totally BS. It's super sketch. And if you play, like a classical violinist is going to play, so the neck, I wish I could, right, so here's your, so here is the beginning of your violin, and here's the end of my screen. Well, that's not a lot of time. Here. Where are my spaces? Here? Okay, this is a really small violin. Let me back up. Okay, so if the violin starts here, the violin ends here, and here's the neck, and here's the bridge, you've got this space right here, and a classical violinist is going to play right in between the end of the neck and the bridge. And a fiddle player, because that'll give like a nice warm sound, a fiddle player tends to play really close to the bridge or right on top of it, which gives it a slightly harsher sound. So that kind of like that fiddly sound, you get that by moving closer to the bridge. Also, fiddle players tend to, one of the reasons why they loosen the bow is because they want to play a lot of double stops and triple stops, which is where you're playing both 2 strings or 3 strings at the same time, whereas classical violin players don't do a lot of that. So fiddle players are going to do a lot of like hitting 2 strings to get these kind of sounds. And well, you may not have to, you don't have to dance. And it's also the music they play. Right, so it's the kind of music you play. Violin players are going to play classical music. Fiddle players tend to play sort of folk music. But it's also where you're playing on the bridge, how loose the bow is, whether or not you play a lot of double stops or triple stops. Yeah, there is also like, I mean, you can also do that as a classical musician, but they don't tend to sit there because it has a different sound that they don't tend to do. Like a classical player can play closer to the neck, closer to the bridge, anywhere they want, but they tend to sit in that kind of sweet spot, whereas the fiddle's not as interested in sounding as sweet. And also, some fiddle players, if the bridge is curved, some fiddle players will sand the bridge so it's less curved, so you can more easily hit 3 strings at the same time with the bow. And another really big difference between modern classical violinists and fiddle players is that modern classical violinists are not taught to improvise. Classical violinists 150 years ago were taught to improvise, or 200 years ago, but now they don't. They read music and they play what's on the sheet music. They do not improvise. But fiddle players, that's an improvising tradition, so they tend to be taught how to improvise, and they tend to improvise a lot. So violin players and fiddle players have very different skill sets. Fiddle players can improvise and they have a different sound, whereas violin players, generally speaking, if they're classical violin players, they're like jazz violinists who know how to improvise. They have not been taught how to improvise. So that's a thing. Yeah, and some fiddle players will also flip the bridge around so they can get a very different kind of, they want access. Well, violins are big in a lot of folk music all over the world, and violin type instruments. Now I don't know what kind of musician your great-grandfather was. Viola has an interesting sound. It does. Our local music festival had a small band playing obscure instruments like ocarina and such that bands not use much. I heard that violin delights have violin ends. So there was a sketch on Saturday Night Live in the classic Saturday Night Live era. Oh, good. Nick Hopper music. It's good. I love good folk music. So there was a sketch with, what's her name? Oh, Jer, you're a violinist? Good for you. That is awesome. Viola short notes are my jam and my, I love a viola. I also love a cello. What's her name? She was from the original cast. Gilda Radner. Gilda Radner had this character she played on the news story. Emily Litella, who was this little old lady who would yell about things. Gaming the system for the win. And she had this character, Emily Litella, who was this little old lady who would always complain about things. And I remember this one sketch. She was complaining. She'd be like, I'm here to talk about something that is very upsetting to me, and that is violins on television. Everyone's talking about violins on television, and I don't know why they're so upset. They're saying we shouldn't have violins on television, and I think we should have more violins on television. I think people need to hear violins. They're an excellent instrument, and they teach people about the music, and I feel like we should have more, not fewer violins. And then she goes on for this long time about violins on television. And then, of course, after a while, finally, Chevy Chase, right, the anchor's like, Miss Litella, it's not violins on television, it's violence on television. And then she goes, oh, never mind. And like, that's the whole thing, that she'll like go on this huge long rant, and then she's told that she's got the word wrong, and then she says, never mind. And anyway, that one always stood out to me as being amazing. Violins on television. Oh, my goodness. If anything happens to Tommy, I need to play an old lady and use up. Well, I'll tell you, I would have no problem playing an old lady with an old lady voice at one point in time, because sometimes you just need a little old lady voice in your game. I mean, who doesn't want a little old lady voice? That's all. Sometimes you want it. I know he played in a band around 1900 as a side job. My great-grandma played the violin, so I guess he might not have. He could play it's 1900. He could have played anything. He could have played a brass instrument, keyboard, anything, really. I mean, who doesn't need little old lady voice in your game? I know sometimes I do. That's true. Just a little old lady, that's all. Sorry, I sometimes I enjoy things like that, perhaps too much. I don't know. Yeah, Flora's an old lady, but she's got a very different voice, because I try to go for with her, I try to go for a less intrusive, more sort of in the background voice, that you may not, because like she likes to lurk in the background, so I tried to have a voice that was like tired, wise, but like could fade in the background if she needed to be subtle. Oh, saxophone and accordion, PH, that's cool. Maybe saying maybe Ice Bunny's grandfather played some Moog pop synth. We don't know. I used to play in an old band, and let me tell you, I can rip a mean sackbut solo. That's true. Now I'm imagining a little old lady with a sackbut, and that's amazing. Yeah, also the wrong voice for an Olga type. Like, you want these like different, yeah, I always want like a different kind of, yeah, you want some chai. I think too much about the voices of my characters. This is true. And like how I'm gonna frame it. Also, hey everybody, it's so good to see you all. I'm so excited to have you all here. Oh, also, okay, one more show and tell that I can show you. I don't have any kind of, I can't hold books for any length of time on my hand, but it is fine. So I kickstarted Sayang, and it came in the mail today. So Sayang Book 1 Origin, and also Sayang Book 2 Hero, and also a lovely GM screen. I was like, oh, gonna jump out of my hands. So, right, we'll just need some tea. My voice is good. I had to try and imitate your inflections the day you were gone. People were afraid of me. Jer, I love that. Like, cause you want, there was like a kind of a slightly deceptively lazy cadence to Flora, which I really appreciated. I used the word sack butt in a chat room. My college music experience is now valid. And I know what a sack butt is, and so it worked very well. Sayang is OPP. It is, as a matter of fact. Yeah, you know me. Yeah, they did a second edition. It just came out for the Kickstarters. And I kickstarted it because the Strix was involved in a part of the game, so that's pretty exciting. Although I don't see her name, I don't see her name in here. But my understanding is that she was involved in some of the working on some of the pieces of this, so I wanted to kickstart it back then. I love ye oldie instruments. I don't love these modern instruments, these newfangled instruments. Speaking of newfangled, I'm going to tell you something. Wrist. I'm going to tell you something that is about ye oldie, and then I'm going to play, but about ye oldie versus new modern. Yes, Jared, storyteller system. So that storyteller system, I think it seems to be a little bit modified looking at the character sheet, but it's got the same, it looks to me like it's the base is the storyteller system. That is what I would say. So there are people who are really invested. Oh, says Evie, have y'all heard that the Tariff War is really about to hit tabletop? Yeah. I've heard about that. I got an email actually from, I kickstarted a game called Castle Itter. It's like a war game, but you can play solo, and it's about trying to hold off an attack on this. Anyway, there was a kind of a strategy war game that I kickstarted, and I just got an email from them saying that the tariffs are going to hit them, and they're really worried about it, and they're going to try to do everything they can to not have the Kickstarter backers have to pay that extra 25%, but they did say that the game itself, when it goes to retail, is going to have to increase its price. So, yeah. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, it was for stuff from China, Ice Bunny, but here's the thing. Most, probably not all, but most games, most US games, even European games, are made in China. Yeah, I think, yeah, right, because China has the large scale cheap infrastructure, so most people will go, like, if you do a lot of kickstarting, you will see the Kickstarters being like, we send off our stuff to China, we're getting huge pallets of books coming in from China. So like there's like a lot of basically big like I know that Invisible Sun was done in China because they've got really amazing they've got some really good high-tech means of putting things together. Like Invisible Sun is a really complicated box and I think also so was Ogre, and a bunch of things like need to be packed really carefully and difficultly, and apparently China has got the means to do that really well and also very cheap. So a lot of people, because and here's the thing, RPGs don't make huge amounts of money, right? It's a kind of a small it's a small market, and so going to China means you can actually make the games cheaply enough with decent enough quality that you actually won't lose money on your product. So, yeah, you just can't compete with China prices to make games. They have, it's true. It's so interesting. I was reading an interesting article about China, and people like to say, people like to say, that, in China, it's just because the workers are cheap, right? That's it. But I was reading this really interesting article, how it's not actually that the workers are cheap. I mean, the workers are cheap, but it isn't, oh, wait, no. Rissa, we're gonna add you as a regular so you can post that link. Cher, you're here, right? Will you add Rissa as a regular? I think it's... Thank you. You may now post the link. Thank you. So it's not just that they have cheap labor in China. That's actually not it. It's that they create these entire complexes where they have labor but also engineers. They've got like all the steps of the production chain right there in one place with really amazing sort of with really amazing engineering, so that you can get all these really sort of complicated things done in a board game, etc. Like get the dice made, custom made dice, having the board be with cutouts and you know, miniatures and all these details, and then figure out how to do the boxing. Like they've got this really great thing set up so that all the things are in one place. So as the designer, you can just go to this place and talk to all the parts of the production process, make sure they all work, and then produce this amazing thing. Whereas in the States, that doesn't tend to be the case. You don't tend to have the die makers in the same location as the model makers, in the same location as the book publishers, in the same location as the packaging engineers, right? And so it's not as efficient. That's all. Oh, yeah, Rissa, I heard about that. I heard, right, yeah, and they have all these specific machines and all this experience. And so it's like really, like China has really gotten into like really great expertise when it comes to game making. So, but as Rissa points out, there was this Cthulhu Kickstarter that was printed in China, and they burned all of the games. It was like, a Shanghai, it was like a Cthulhu supplement set in Shanghai, I think. And they were like, nope, we don't like it. And so they just burned it all. And wow. Do you know what I mean? Like that's, so this is a real, you know, gotta be careful. Speaking of which, I want to show you something. I know that we're gonna play Horizon Zero Dawn, but I want to show you something. If I can carry it at all, because I mean, here we go. Ooh. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to show you like an example of the kind of stuff that people are getting, that people are getting with when they're sort of working in, right, with these amazing artisans. Oof. So this is the Black Cube, which is Invisible Sun, the game by Monty Cook Games. Yeah, so this is also, yeah, time travel also not big. So this is the box that is the game. You open it up, ooh, like this, wow. And inside this box, ooh, this will be awkward. You have all the books down here. Then you have these shelves, which I'm having a hard time pulling out. Oh, so awkward. Which has got envelopes and this amazing sort of protector inserts, so you can have your dice and tokens. Ooh, right, and then, oh, this is actually very heavy, just so you know it. Another exciting envelope, oh, with cards. And the thing is, there is also in here an entire, I'm gonna put this on the desk so I'm not carrying it, holding it anymore. Whew. Hold on. Oh, I should turn this around so I can see it. Yeah, this game is like epic. By the way, I want to run it. That is like a statement that I feel like you should all know. Here, let me get it. The top, ooh, GM's envelope, right? And you've got all these little like cubes, and you've got cards, but, so this is this one, right? Cubes and cards. I'm gonna pull off this, this insert because I want to show you a thing that is also in this box, and I just don't think they could have made this game outside of China, right? Check it out. This hand, which is used to hold these special cards that tell you, because at any given time in this universe, there is a particular sun that is, because there's more than one sun, there's multiple suns of different colors. And there's any given time there's a sun that is in the sky, a different colored sun, and what colored sun it is going to impact how magic works in this universe. And so this holder is here to sort of let people know what sun is on the rise. I will not injure myself, right? And oh, there's the GM's envelope. Oop, let me put that right there. And this game, Invisible Sun, oof. Props envelope, whoop. Props envelope. Also, the Sooth deck, which is held in the hands of that statue. There are all these like special cards. Ooh, what's going on? We don't know. There's a cloth. There are 2 cloth maps in here that help you sort of travel the path of the sun. Some dice. Oof. Lots and lots of cards for objects. Spell cards. Whew. Right? Like, this is such a huge production that was so complicated to make. They had to spend all this time with the packaging engineers figuring out how they would be able to get everything, like envelopes with stuff in it, like mysterious props, how to get everything that they wanted to have in there in this one box, right? Like, wow. I'm gonna take this box and I'm gonna put it back. If there's a bad one on the rise, but yeah, they could have made it, but it would have cost 3 times as much, and there was no way for them to make this game. Ooh. Hey TiVo, to make this game in any way that would be cost effective if they didn't print it in China. Whoa, there we go. I just put my Invisible Sun box back. Oh, it's still sealed because I don't have the sleeves for it yet. The game is, I've seen it played. It's like, this is like, I just want to sit down and like enjoy some Invisible Sun, but I know that I cannot do that right now because I have a very busy RPG summer that's me taken up with 4 different RPGs, 5, with multiple RPGs I need to deal with. So that will have to, I'm going to open that up when I have the time to enjoy it like a fine wine. That's all. So the game, the setting of the game, I'm kind of excited about it. It's not the cipher system, although it's not unrelated. In it, it's a sort of a surreal game, RPG, where if you don't know the setting, and this is my understanding of it, so the world we live in right now is basically is a dream world. We are all living in a particular dream. Am I, Lauren? Probably. And there is a real world, the actuality, and in the real world, people have magic, and there's all this stuff going on, and you all play mages who wake up into this world of magic that is ruled by these 7 suns, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Over the Edge in its sort of surrealism. And there are a lot of interesting mechanics that I'm sort of fascinated by. So, for example, I feel like there should have been a dolly for moving it. Do you know? I feel like that should have happened. But if you are so when it comes to plots, what you do, this is very interesting, you sort of do a lot of communal world building together. When you make your characters, you make also the neighborhood your character lives in, and you make connections to other player characters, and you create, and because it's a very narrativist game, right? So know it. You create a narrative arc for your character. That is what, as a player, you do. Like you create sort of a long-term arc for your character, like, and maybe your character's arc is you want to get revenge on your father, who is living in a castle in the land of the green sun, for example. So you have, right, some kind of arc. You want to rebuild the lost secret society of the whatnots, right? Like, so you have some kind of goal for your character, and you gain XP as you move forward on your character's goals. So every character has some kind of long-term goal that they themselves create, and then they gain experience as they move forward towards their goals. Evie says, "Totes random, but I'm in the library of my house, and we've decided to just stay and pay out of pocket for things. So yay, I still have my library, and my wife has her craft room." Oh, that's wonderful. That's nice. I mean, you get to keep a place to live, and that is good. And I just got they had an expansion that came out, and they also have Invisible Sun. They have a directed campaign where and also there's a reason why I haven't unpacked everything just yet, and I'll tell you there's another reason for that as well. Volpez, I will tell you. But they have this directed campaign which lasts a year, where you'll get things in the mail like props and strange mysterious things, so that's pretty cool. One of the reasons why I have not unpacked the game completely, Volpez, is because there are secret clues inside the game box, and like secret messages. Like, there's a lot of discussion about like there being secrets in the box itself. Not like, oh, if I read a book, the book will tell me a secret, but like there might be a secret on the inside of the box somewhere. And so I want to unpack everything when I can really devote myself to it. I don't want to unpack and be like, oh, what's there? And then not be able to come back to it. If there are secrets in the box, I want to be able to like give myself like to know that I've got some just free time where I can just sort of sit in that box and immerse myself in it. So that's exciting to me. Jers, I've noticed I have a hard time with games where creating predetermined arcs are necessary. No, it's not a legacy game. It's just that there are like these Easter eggs, right? They're like little Easter eggs for the GM in there, and so I thought that was cool. We are weird. Living room is now the library. Master bedroom is the craft room. Spare room is now our bedroom. Is that weird? Or does that just say you have priorities? I feel like I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you. Let me make sure my mic is there. There we go. I have this office. I need to, no, whatever. We're not going to think about moving. So about predetermined arcs, I think arcs read very one way. I think what I would say is I would say that your character has to have a goal, right? So that your character has to have a long-term goal. Whether or not something that is important to them, whether or not they succeed in that long-term goal, we will find out what happens. I'm a bit more simulationist than narrativist, so I mean, I would say like we'll find out what happens. But I think that the idea is that my friends have dedicated their master bedroom to their dog and cats, and they take the guest room. See, again, people have priorities. Where was my thought going? Arcs, yes. So, getting me talking about RPGs. What I would say is I know that there are habits that have developed because of Dungeons and Dragons. Drummer Boy says, I want a library wall with one of those secret passageways to another room, but owning a house is probably not a thing. First off, I also want a secret passage. I want a secret passage so bad. I want a secret passage. Drummer Boy, I'm with you. I want a secret passage. That is true facts. Hey, control freak. So RPGs, there are habits that developed out of the way that Dungeons and Dragons was as an RPG. And I don't know if everybody wants a secret passage, but I do, because how great would that be? And some of those habits are not habits that I particularly enjoy. And one of the habits has to do with character creation and what your characters, how your characters work, and what the GM's job is imagined to be. So, in my experience, a lot of character creation practice was this. Hey everybody, we're gonna play D&D, make a first level character. And that was the practice, right? Like, and maybe you would say, we're doing this in Greyhawk or we're doing this in Forgotten Realms, right? But basically, what the GM would say to the players was, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons, make a character that's first level or fourth level. Especially since in the first edition, there wasn't a lot of options. So like everybody knew how to do it. And what you would generally get, I think, would be the most conversation that would happen would be between the players trying to figure out who was going to play the cleric, and who would play the magic user, who would play the thief, and who would play the fighter, right? Like just to distribute the main party roles. But as a GM, what you would get is a random collection of PCs from your players who usually did not know each other, had no reason to work together, and maybe didn't even make sense. Also didn't tend to have goals. Was just like, I'm a fighter. Here's my fighter. Like, I'm a magic user, here's my magic user. And then, and like, I'm a lawful good paladin. And like, I'm a chaotic evil assassin. And as the GM, you're like, oh, I have to, you all meet at an inn. And you basically hope that that first adventure is enough to solidify them as a group that will stay together. And then like, you know, your job is to like, and the players saw it as your job as the GM to make them work together. So you have to figure out how to like keep them together. Like, oh, the king says all of you have to do this mission. Oh, the Grand Duchess. Oh, there's like, oh, your prophecy. Like you have to like take whatever kind of randomness you're given and make that work. Somebody's playing a pirate. Someone's playing a desert person. Okay, well, make it work. And I never liked that. I never liked it. And so I have long, even way back in the day, preferred, and I would do that sort of, and I think that there was this solidified a particular idea that players get to make whatever they want to make. Right, that this is sort of like, I think an idea developed out of this, that players do whatever they want to do in terms of making a character. Like they're completely in control of the character. The GM is completely in control of the world. There's a big bright line between it, and the GM just has to make do with what they've got. Yeah, background questionnaires for the win, right? And for me, I didn't like it. I don't like it as a player, and I don't like it as a GM. I want. Yeah, for Maggie's charity thing, I know the goal is to save kids, but that's it. I have no idea what is up with these kids or what. Right, and that's like a very sort of traditional way of doing Dungeons and Dragons, and you might not even get that the goal is to save kids. You might not get anything at all. You're just like, we're gonna play D&D. And I think it's because D&D as a game has a really strong implied frame, that frame being, you will be combat-oriented people who are going to go into dungeons, kill things, and take their stuff and level up, right? Like there's like a very strong implied frame. But, you know, I think that the habit then has just been that players do whatever they want, the GM has to sort of work it out. And I don't like it. I don't like it as a player, and I don't like it as a GM. As a player, I want the GM to give me something so that I can make a character that fits into the world. Like I actually care about fitting into the world. So when Rissa Karase says, will you play Call of Cthulhu? She didn't just say, make a Call of Cthulhu character. That wasn't what she said. I mean, she could have said that, but she didn't. And I would have been less excited if the only thing I knew about the game was it was a Call of Cthulhu game. Like, that would make me, sad. Instead, what she said was, hey, this is a game. It's set in 1947 Seattle. the players are all connected to a small private museum in some kind of a way. We currently have someone who does, we currently have an ex-cop who's sort of security. We have a mob accountant who's got a lot of sort of smuggling contacts. We have... I'm trying to go through all of my... I'm trying to figure out who were the original players when I first started, actually, because we have new ones now. Baby goat type kids. Those are the first three, right? There were oh, and then the doctor, and we have a doctor. Sorry, that was the core four. And we have an old doctor who is an anthropology student at the college. So I knew that they were country doctor going back to school. Thank you. So I know that we have connections to the university and this museum. I also know that a player left who was a journalist who was at the museum, who was at the newspaper. So I was like, okay, I will make a person who is a journalism student at the college, so we'll have a connection to the newspaper, and then we'll get an internship at the museum, and so this way I'll have connections to everyone. But I really want to know what the world is so I can make a character that fits in it. And as a GM, I will give players that information so they can do that. But also I will, and I know this is controversial, but I will veto characters. I will do it. And I have done it. I have not done it often. To be very sort of like full disclosure, rarely do I have to flat out veto a character. I think I have only flat out vetoed 2 characters in my GMing experience. I have said, generally, if there's a character that's like, I will try to work with the player to sort of make that character more appropriate to the game. But if there's a character that will disrupt the game for the other players, I will veto that character. I do not follow the old D&D mentality where the GM just has to take what they've gotten and just somehow make it work. If somebody gives me a character that's going to make it unfun for the other players, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. And I think there was one example where it might have been more than once, actually. I said twice, it might have been more than twice, but really it happens very, like this, we're talking within like 30 years, right? 35 years of gaming. It does not happen often. There was one where I wanted to do a kind of like a Brainstorm Survivor thing where everybody was a regular human being, like a regular person that was going to go on a 3-hour tour on a yacht, like a whale watching tour on a sort of small private yacht, going to go out into the ocean off the California coast. Then there's going to be a big storm that was going to transfer them over to this sort of like medieval fantasy world. Yes. If I have to veto 2 characters in a row, veto the player, this is true. So it's like a Gilligan's Island, but like you end up in a kind of a fantasy space, and everybody, and like the character concepts I had was like, somebody was like, okay, I want to be a marine biologist, and I let them know. I said, hey, look, the setup is that you're going to be on this 3-hour tour, but I want you to know that there's going to be a twist. You're going to be transported to another place, so it's going to be like, think about a Gilligan's Island thing. So think about people who could handle that. So like I let them know. Oh, thanks, Sayang. Take care. Thank you for being here. And so somebody was like, I want to be a marine biologist. I was like, that's cool. Somebody else was like, I want to be a cop that's going on the cruise. Ooh, Mage and Sage, thank you so much for the bits. I'm going to have to sing you a song now. So I want to thank you for this, and here's your song. So when people donate, I sing for them the song We're in the Money, but in Pig Latin, as sung by Ginger Rogers in the film Gold Diggers of 1933. So, Mage and Sage, I'm so excited. It's in like 2 weeks, right? Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry, I'm so excited. So, Mage and Sage, for you. Earway and hey, the anime. Earway and hey, the anime. Iwayat ke awayat leav wayat wayat wakes te utayat ke yang wayo. Earway and hey, the anime. Ide I skays or ani say. Oh, one moment. I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Thank you for the follow. When we get 500 followers, we're gonna do a stream in Pig Latin. So we're gonna do a visual novel in Pig Latin. Just so you know. Okay, so I just did Earway and Hey the Money anime. Ide iskes er ani say. Old may and the 80ish and pray. Uye uthre uvia aste an weong reo. Iwe everne idre ed leansle of way ed brandsle ute day. And when we see the anle or we ukle at the I guy at in the IA. We're in the money. We're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. So thank you, Mage and Sage. Thank you so much. Tips and bits are going towards saving up for me to be able to run some shows on my channel and also give people compensation. So thank you. I'm glad your brain is twisted. That is important. A little bit of a twisted brain, like that's that's the best. That is goodness. Yeah, so Mage and Sage and I are gonna be playing in a game together on a stream very soon. Very soon. I don't think it's been officially announced yet. I don't think, so I'm not saying any details, but it's happening. There's gonna be, it's June, right? I don't even know if I'm allowed to say. Mage and Sage, am I allowed to say? What am I allowed to say? I don't want to say things I'm not allowed to say. Are you sure? Are you sure? So I will be playing. Mage and Sage, are you sure? I don't want to like give away the secrets. Okay, I'm allowed. I will be playing. I wish I had my calendar up. I don't have my calendar up. I will be playing in a game as a player on the Greyhawk channel starting in June. June. Hello, calendar. Move over here. Whoop. Whoop. Where are we? There we go. June 7th? June 7th, is that right? Yes, June 7th. June 7th at 2 o'clock Eastern, I will be playing on the Greyhawk channel for one of their summer sessions. And that is going to be really fun and really cool. And right? And like they get cool people there, and I'm gonna be playing with some cool people on the channel. It's gonna be fun. So June, and I don't yet know who my character is. Yes, I'll be playing, so I get to play. So I will be playing in this Greyhawk game over on the Greyhawk channel with some very cool people starting June 7th. On Fridays at 2 p.m. I am a nerd, Krellin. This is true. Krellin, I'm shocked. I will be playing starting June. So that is not even bad. I don't think it's 5 in the evening. I think it's 7. Grimjack, Leone, Heavenly, and myself. Right? Oh, it's gonna be so good. And I'm excited to work with some of these folks. And I think it's 7 in the evening for Europe, which is actually a pretty decent time. So that's like a very civilized time of day for the people in Europe to be able to hang out with us. And I don't yet know who my character is, and I cannot wait to find out what we're gonna do, so I can make a cool character, find out what the other players. So again, like I'm thinking about like my process. Like I want to know what the other players want to do, like what kind of characters they are. Can I make somebody who's like the cousin of somebody, or like can I be somebody's like kid sibling, or like we went to school together. I don't know, like some kind of cool, I'm excited, some kind of cool thing. Oh, 2 characters. Well, that'll be exciting as well. I'm excited for that. 2 characters, I can do it. Trooper's a nerd who tricks people into talking nerdy with him with the promise of streaming video games. Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna stream video games, and I realize that we're doing a lot of nerdy talk, but it'll happen. Hello, left-handed monkey wrench. Welcome in indeed. So 2 characters, that's even more possibilities for goodness. I'm so excited about it. So I'm looking forward to the game. I hope you all join me because it's going to be fun, and I cannot wait to work with some of these folks. I'm excited. They've got a good crew over there with like good, like like people who say good things on Twitter make me happy. That's what I want to say. Psha, video games. Krell's like, streaming video games, who does that? In D&D, 2 characters is like a half hour of work. Well, you say that, but I want to make sure I have the concept. I want to know who my characters are, like inside. I want to know, like, anyone can stream video games. How many people can talk RPGs for hours? This is fair. This is fair, Krellin. This is fair. Now, Nightbot is poking me a little bit about the streaming, but I'm totally going to do it. Don't even worry about it. Yeah, so Mage and Sage, I'm excited. There's a lot of us. This is true. Because I couldn't talk about RPGs for hours if chat could not talk about RPGs for hours. Fact. And I'm excited for it. Like, what is my motivation? Mage and Sage, now you're getting me all excited. Stop it. No, you don't have to stop it. It's excited. I need to go and send a text message. But we only have like 2 weeks-ish. 2 weeks? 2 weeks? I was not double booked because it's Fridays. Krellin, I've never said any. Krellin, the thing, Krellin, is you don't say anything, but you instigate. And then, like, the minute I start flagging, you're like, what about that? And I was like, oh, shiny. You distract me. It's good. No. Our Cthulhu Confidential are on the weekends, I believe. Yes, I believe they are. So we are good. So I've got Cthulhu Confidential off stream. Ooh. Somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Left-handed Monkey Wrench, thank you for the follow. We are now 67 followers away from 500, and when we get to 500, I will do a stream in Pig Latin. It'll be a visual novel, so you'll be able to see it in English, so you'll know what's happening. Itzwe, Atne, Aikle, Iwe, Udwe, Ude, Ewe, Imstre, Odlite, Inwe, Igpe, Atnle, Ose, Atwe, Uye, Udenke, Understandwe, Utwe, Imwe, Aingse, Atwe, Alwe, Ose, Elve, Ibe, Ubtitle say. Idlewe, Ibe, okay way. Onte, Uriwe. I will catch you soon, Mage and Sage, and thank you for the follow. And I feel like we only have 3 weeks. It'll be exciting. Everyone's gonna have. That's all. I'm just saying, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And have fun with the sports. Soccer, baseball, volleyball, curling, not curling. Tennis. I don't know. Weekend sports. I want to know what they are. Thank you, Left-Handed Monkey Wrench. And here's the thing. I've been really practicing, and I want to make sure before we do this Pig Latin stream that I practice really hard so that I can like really emote and get the acting, the emotion in the Pig Latin so that you can really feel it. Field hockey. There's a marathon tomorrow, and my bus is not going the normal way, and that sucks since some sports inconvenience a ton of people. Oh, it could be a mixture of sports because he does have a few kids. So if you think of something like to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it's noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by taking up arms end them. To sleep no more, like to die, to sleep no more, but to sleep perchance to dream, and there's the rub. I could be king of infinite space in a walnut shell were it not for bad dreams. Make some bread, Sea Spider Mix. But then can you say that part of not to be? Can you say that monologue in Pig Latin in a way that conveys the same emotional impact, right? So like, could you say Ute ibe Owe adne ute ibe. Ate iswe ide extinque. Other way, it is oblerne inwe ide einme ute offerse ide ingslays and way arrows way of way outway outrageous way orchinfe or way ibe opposing way am they end way am they ute ide ute ipslay one orme ute ipslay or chance pay ute indre iwe airs they ubre. Right? Like, you want to be able to, like, get your Pig Latin down enough that you can still convey the emotional nuance. Otherwise, it'll just be boring. So I need to just give myself a little bit of time offline to just practice some visual novels in Pig Latin so that I do them well, right? So that when you are at this Pig Latin stream, it'll be good. Now, there are things that I think would be hilarious, but we'll see how that goes. Oh, hey, guess what? I'm gonna play Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm gonna play it now-ish. But I did want to tell you something. Guess what? I have news. It's not really news yet, but it's like pre-news, and I wanted to share it with you because it's exciting. You know how I talked about the book Atlanta Nights, which is a really terrible book written to be bad on purpose, and I thought it would be really cool. Chicken butt. Guess why? Chicken thigh. And I thought it would be really cool to read it on stream, but I didn't want to read it without getting permission from the authors. You know, just to be safe. So I messaged the authors of Atlanta Nights the other day, and I got a message back from them saying that the person who saw the message is not able to answer my question because they're not the person who answers that question. The person who does answer the question is currently out of the country. But they said that that the person who's out of the country will get back to me as soon as they see the message, and they're pretty certain that the person will say yes. So I do not have a yes yet, but I have a probable yes for Atlanta Nights, which means that it is very likely that I will be able to, in the very near future, over the summer, do a reading stream where I read a novel that is super, super bad on purpose. Guess how? Chicken cow? Chicken cow? Chicken cow. Aren't chicken cows what you got in that episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Double Meat Palace, where she worked at the fast food restaurant, Double Meat Palace, where they said that their patties were like some kind of terrible mashup between chickens and cows, and the chickens and cows were mashed up into this horrible thing, but then it turns out their secret was actually it was just soy all along, and there were no chickens nor cows involved in that in any way. Like, I feel like that was that one. Okay, so I'm going to play Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm gonna do it. Brown chicken, brown cow. It was an episode. It was an episode. So I'm here. Horizon Zero Dawn is here. That whole episode, Peach was like, what is going on? And it was a really weird episode. That is true. Evie's like, not video games, but we will see how long the video game thing happens. There have been multiple times where I have meant to start playing a video game, and then I get 2 seconds in, and then you distract me, and then I've got to pop out of the video game stream to talk about something really interesting. Yeah, I thought the secret ingredient was going to be people as well, and then it turns out it was just soy, and I was like, oh, okay. Cheers. So what I wanted to say was that I actually think it's really important vetoing characters, right? did I want that emote to be a car? No, I wanted swan diving, right? Just jumping off the cliffs. That was the episode of Buffy blackmailed Double Meat Palace so she could have a job and still be the Slayer. Yeah, that's right. That was Buffy. Right. So I have vetoed characters very rarely, but that's what I... Oh, hold on. Sorry, wait a second. We're back here for a second. I haven't... Oh. I feel like I... There we go. There we go. I know. So wait, I didn't finish the thought, and I want to finish the thought before I start Horizon Zero Dawn. There are going to be blacksmiths in the background. Dive. No, like a swan dive. Because I fall off of cliffs all the time. So then, instead of a person jumping off of a cliff in a swan dive, because that is clearly my life when I play video games. So it was like we were going to do the Gilligan's Island thing. Right. So here's the thing. Gilligan's Island. I've got to tell you a character that I would veto, right? I just have to tell you the character that I did veto so that you can kind of get a sense of when I say no to things. It was the Gilligan's Island thing. We had somebody who was a marine biologist who was there on the cruise for marine biology purposes, whale watching. We had somebody who was a cop who was there with his brother-in-law. Like, it was like brother-in-law trip, and Robot Sharkman vetoed. And then there was somebody who was they wanted somebody who was there was like a cop, there was a marine biologist, there was the brother-in-law who was some sort of sports journalist, I think, and they were out there to go like fishing, but kind of like a face. And then the fourth person was like, oh, I know what I want to play. I want to play a serial killer who wants to murder all the other PCs. And I was like, no, you can't play that character. This is not, like, we are not setting up a game where you are going to, and he's like, I never let you play Robo Shark. But if I knew you wanted to play a Robot Shark Man, I would come up with a campaign where you could play a Robot Shark Man. Like, if I knew that's what you wanted, I'd be like, okay, you want to play Robot Shark Man? After this one, we'll do a one where, like, I can come up with an idea. It'd be kind of like a transhuman space cyberpunk thing. We could be Robot Shark Man. We'd do like an undersea thing. It'd be cool. I would do it. I would make this for you. This is not the ship, right? And I was just like, you're not gonna play a serial killer who murders all the other PCs. Yes, the most powerful tool in the GM arsenal. No. That was, hey Crit Witch, how are you? Could I have played a privileged rich guy with zero survival skills? Yes. As long as you knew, like, I would let you know ahead of time. I would say, hey, look, just so you know, survival skills are going to be important in this game. Because we're going to get into a survival situation. You can play a privileged rich guy with zero survival skills, but I want you to know, like, I would let them know ahead of time that they're going to be thrown into a survival situation real fast, and so they would know that a lot of the things that they're building their character around may not be initially useful, may become useful later, but will not necessarily be useful now. I would probably discourage spending points on wealth, like maybe, right? But certainly, like, I mean, the thing is, I would just want to make sure, because I'm not doing a bait and switch, right? I would want to make sure that the player knows that the wealth, like things like wealth and contacts and those things are not going to be useful because they're going to be transported somewhere else. But for example, in this thing where, so here's the thing, right? They're going to be transported to a fantasy world. So all of his money and contacts will not be useful, but what I would do, because he's going to be in a new universe, but what I would do is I would say, okay, you probably have savoir-faire, you probably have a lot of skills that will enable you to very quickly sort of like, you're going to be able to talk to nobles. Like, you understand rich people, you're going to be able to, like, I would imagine that this person, even though they're being taken out of their context, would have transferable skills that would allow them to do things usefully. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would work with them so that they could, like, let's say that, okay, so here's the thing. Let's say, because this was in GURPS, the person took wealth. They wanted to be rich. I would let them know that they could not have that. They would not be rich, and they would not be able to, when they get transported to the new place, they would not be able to start off as rich in that way. However, I would say things like, you can have a lot of gold jewelry. Like, you could have gold on you. You could have things like that that would translate to this new world. So you would have money that nobody else has. And while you wouldn't have as much as a rich person in that world would have at the start of the game, I would note that you have the advantage, and we would build up to that so that you could, it would not be difficult for you to rebuild up to a level of wealth through role-playing, right? So, like, I mean, basically, I would note that that's what you're doing, and I would make sure that is a thing that could happen, but I would let you know I would let you know before we started that this is what we're looking at. I would also probably have a discussion about things like enemies. I was like, hey, you want to take an enemy, and you want your enemy to be your boss here in this world, but we're gonna transport you somewhere else. Maybe don't take enemy, or if you really want an enemy, why don't you take an enemy and leave it blank so you can get that enemy when you get to your new context, right? Like, I would work with them. I like to get people the things they want. However, I just said no to the person who wanted to play a serial killer who was going to kill all the other PCs. I was like, that is not this game. Like, I mean, if we were doing a one-shot that was like a Friday the 13th one-shot, sure, but this was meant to be a campaign that was supposed to last for, like, at least one season. So, no. that was just a no. And then made a different character. So, yeah, right. So, like, I will say no. I don't have to say no often, because, like Rissa says, if you have to veto a character concept twice, that's probably not the character concept that's a problem. It might be the player. So, and look, I will also say this. I have run games where there is player versus player conflict in serious ways. I was running one of my many espionage games that I have run, and two of the players actually were double agents and working for the enemy. And I was like, okay, that makes sense in this world. I'm okay with that. That's fine. I did tell them, I said, however, you can work for the enemy. Please note that if and when it comes out, and I'm not going to stop it from coming out. Like, I mean, I'm not going to tell people, but if the players figure it out, they're going to figure it out. And if it does come out, they're going to do what they're going to do, and that might involve killing your PCs or arresting them or who knows what, or trying to turn them. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but please be prepared that you're playing characters that are working against the party at the moment, at least at the start of the game. And that may not work out well for your characters, or it might, but, like, you know what I mean? And so, but that was a campaign where that was something that was an acceptable possibility. And I also told the players, I said, remember, this is an espionage game. There could be double agents. Nobody knows, right? So, like, I put out there that these things are possible. What about a pacifist gangrel that ends up burning down the coteries' relationships? Jer, that is a situation that you could not know about ahead of time. You could not have known about that ahead of time. Because, and this is where, I want to be you can be a pentuple agent. It's true. You actually work for Cthulhu. And I think this is really tricky because, and this is where I am, I almost killed a fellow PC because of things. I didn't, because I couldn't do enough damage in one hit with D&D 5ed. Hey, I actually have had, so I've had PC death in my games. I have done a TPK once, But generally speaking, most PC deaths that have happened in my games, which have been very rare, have happened because of other PCs. Generally speaking, like, PCs can die in my games. It is totally possible, and it has happened. But PCs have killed other PCs in my games as well, and that is. Levi, Tentuple agent is when you work for Cthulhu? That's the best. I want to be a Tentuple agent. Like, that would be amazing. Amazing. I love it. I love it. It's so good. Players have killed other players, and that is a possibility, is what I'm going to say. But the thing about players is that you never know if they're going to play a problem character. Like, some characters, you can look at the character sheet and you can see it's going to be a problem and you can say, no. And there are some characters that have red flags, but with a good player it's not a problem, but with a different kind of player can be a problem. And if I don't know the player and I see red flags on the character sheet, I will try to find out more to see what's going on here. But sometimes somebody makes a character that looks on paper like it'll be fine, and then it turns out that player is a problem, and there's nothing like that's. You can't stop everything. Sometimes you just have to be like, wow, hold on a second. Let's have a discussion about what's going on here. Pentuple is working for one side, while the other side thinks you work for them, thinking you work for the first side, thinking you work for the second, thinking you work for the first. And that is a Pentuple agent. I feel like there probably are Pentuple, or have been Pentuple agents in the world. So, like, for example, a murder hobo character, when you get that character that's like, I have no friends, no family, I like no one, I trust no one, and all my skills are in guns, I feel like, oh, Pentuple agent is the devil's advocate. I have seen people play that character and have that character be a good character, but I've also often seen that character played in ways that are a real problem. So if somebody hands me like that classic, I trust no one, I hate everyone, I have no contact with anyone, and all I do is kill things character sheet, I'm gonna have a conversation with them to find out how they plan on playing that character, because if they plan on playing the character the way it looks on paper, that is not gonna be good. But they may not. Like, and if I know the player, then I would, like, for example, I know Rissa Corese. I know her very well. She's a great player. She's a great GM, and I trust her completely. And if she handed me like your classic murder hobo antisocial character for a game that was not meant to be that, I would trust. I might check in, but I might not even need to, because I would trust that is not what she's actually aiming to do something different or deconstructive or interesting with that character, because I know her as a player. Like, and I know that she's not about to. She doesn't go into the. Here's a point. Yeah, how do they even want to work with a party, Falcon, is the problem, right? When you make a character that does not want to work with a party at all, I need to trust you as a player that you will make that work. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is an archetype for the reluctant hero, and if I know the player is going to play that archetype and actually do it well, and make that person work with a party, or like we have ways to, like, then it's fine. But too often that is not what happens, right? So, but I trust Rissa. I trust that she would do that character well. And the thing is, you can do it well, and it can be really, really great. It can be a great experience to have a character who goes through a process in the party. But some people are not about that, right? With my recent campaign proposals to my group, I included a buy-in that was like, you are a fervent believer in this Druid Grove's tenets. Yeah, I really think there should be a buy-in. I think that's very useful. And if somebody wants something else, we need to talk about it. Honestly, I think the first season of VTM went pretty well. I did want to ask the question of loyalty to the Camarilla, and apparently did it a little too well. The first season did go well, but I will tell you what, there's a PC who really just cannot come back. the pacifist gangrel. Like, I do not see how that pacifist gangrel is going to come back, because I don't think any of the PCs trust that person, and that person is probably going to be murdered. Like, so as long as everybody knows it. And I just, the thing is, I will say, and this actually goes, remember we were talking about habits that come from Dungeons and Dragons? There is a habit that comes from Dungeons and Dragons that there are a couple of habits, and I talked one about character creation as a habit, but there's another habit that I don't like. Levi says, yeah, like the one player wrote a backstory that gave him a reason to be against the buy-in, but he was playing along with it, and that was fine. Right. As long as the player understands the buy-in. But one of the things that I think comes out of the old school D&D, which is not great for me, is, yeah, she is an anarch NPC land. That's what's going on. Is a particular kind of antagonism between players and GMs. Now, old school D&D, when it does the oppositional GM well, everybody's playing fair, right? Like you know, like when you do it well, right? When you do it well, both the players and the GM are on the same page, and that page is the GM is out there to challenge the characters and make it hard for the characters, and the characters are there to sort of pull out all their skills, right? Like it'll be a really hard challenge, and the players have to pull out all their skills in order to be successful. But they're playing the same game, right? They're both playing the same game. The GM is not trying to kill the players unfairly, the PCs. Don't kill the players. The GM is not trying to cheat to beat the PCs. The GM doesn't get an ego stroke by killing PCs. The GM doesn't think my job is to win. I win if the PCs lose. That's not the right mindset at all to have in that model. Like, that is toxic and no good. And at the same time, players are not there to not play the game. And one of the problems with that old mindset when it turned bad is that there were GMs who thought that they would win if the players lost, or that what they were doing is like that they somehow got points for killing PCs. And like, yeah, Gygax was brutal, but he was fair, right? He was, and that's people sometimes missed that, right? And also, not only was he fair, he also had players that wanted to play that game, right? And they were playing that game together, and so it worked. But there are those GMs who have that not good attitude, and there is the corollary that there are players, and today even still, who think their job that, well, let me put it this way, who think they win as a player if they mess up the game, right? So they are like, okay, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. The player says we're going to play a game where all survivors on an island. I'm going to try to go and be a serial killer and kill everybody. Like, that right there is a player who thinks that if they can mess up the game, they win, right? They're imagining an antagonistic relationship between the GM and the players, between the players and the game, that I think is a holdover from D&D, old D&D, and like, that's not a player I want to play with. Like, I don't want to play with a GM who feels that way, and I don't want to play with a player who feels that way. I want us to be playing the same game together, even if that game is super challenging. The whole DMR players winning by beating the others always bought. Yeah, you win by playing and having fun, and that having fun can be really oppositional. Like, I am not saying that, am I feeling with Seamus Young's chainmail bikini? Maybe. I'm gonna say no, but what if I am? I'm gonna say no, but then if you link me, I might actually be familiar with it. Do you know what I mean? Because it rings a bell of familiarity, so I feel like there's some kind of familiarity there, but I'd have to be linked it to see. Control Freak. A GM wins by having the plays at the end of the session. That was amazing. Wins the next session. The players win by having fun. Right? And here's the thing, the players also win by I agree with you, Control Freak. I totally agree, but let me amend that and add something. The GM wins by, author GMs might tend towards the whole feeling bad because their story is being altered, ruined by the PCs. But a GM like that, a GM who thinks of themselves as an author, should find players who want to play in that kind of a game. And there are players who love a good railroad, right? For them, the railroad is like the roller coaster of fun, right? And that is what they want. They want to be given an amazing story by the GM. And if there's an author GM, they need to find players who want that. That's how that's going to work. Otherwise, the GM's going to be frustrated or the players going to be frustrated, and then nobody's having fun. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's like really important to match those styles. In the same way, my favorite thing is a kind of a goal-oriented sandbox where the players have a lot of agency to take action on their own. And there are players who don't like that. There are players who do not want player agency. Like they want like little player agency, but they don't want to have to drive story. They want the story given to them. So if I want to do a very player agency heavy game and the players don't want that, there's going to be a mismatch and it's not going to work out very well. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's really important to make sure that the expectations are matched, the play styles are matched. Chainmail Bikini was a comic she did that was posted on Fear the Boot a long time ago. I feel like I've read a couple of strips, but not the whole thing. Like, because it is very familiar to me. Right, illusion of agency works like 95% of the time, and sometimes people sometimes want the illusion of agency, but they don't want agency, and sometimes they want agency, but not the illusion. Like, you know, like you have to really match what people are wanting, or else it's not going to work out. And there's nothing wrong with either style or any style in between. It's just about that match. So here's how I want to amend your playing fun, left-handed monkey wrench. Wait. Control Freak, I want to amend your thing, and this is how I want to amend it. You say, a GM wins by having the players at the end of the session going, that was amazing, wins the next session. The players win by having fun. I will amend it, I agree, and I will amend it like so. The GM wins by, at the end of the session, the player saying, that was amazing, wins the next session, and the GM is having fun. The players win by having fun, and the GM saying, that was really fun, I'm so excited to GM the next session, right? What you don't want is a situation where the GM provides an amazing experience for the players, but the GM is not having fun and then burns out, right? So like, I just think it's important that both sides need to be having fun and both sides need to be excited about the next game. That would be my one amendment. And because I think that sometimes too often people ignore GM fun. Like there's a real rhetoric, I think, where there's a rhetoric that sort of places GMs in the role of service only, sort of selfless service, where their whole job is to just make sure that players have fun, even if they don't have fun. And players never have to worry about GM fun. Like the players can like screw over the GM all the time. They can do whatever they want. They can make life really difficult for the GM, and the GM shouldn't be bothered as long as the players are having fun. And that I think is not a healthy attitude, and I see it a lot in gaming spaces where people really don't take care of GMs at all, and I think that's and I think that's not very nice, is what I would say. Please, yeah. Please, Krellin, please link it in Discord because I want to check it out again. I think I just saw like a couple strips way back in the day. A new player was introduced fighting random enemies, and they figured the point of the fight was so the new player could show off, so they didn't help. But instead, it was a save the new guy introduction. Control Freak agrees. I forget sometimes that not everyone that GMs is a control freak, and thus has fun because of the position of the guiding the campaign. Yeah. Okay, wait, that's a fine attitude to have if you're paying the GM. Krellin, I agree with you. If you're paying the GM, then you don't need to care about their fun. You know what I mean? Like, you're paying them. You get, like, yes, I totally, Evie, thank you. GM aren't service tops. They're not, like, you're playing together. Thank you. like, this is the thing, and I because the thing is, GM burnout is a thing, and there's nothing more frustrating than players, and it's usually not all the players. It's usually that one player who delights in making things hard for the GM. And, like, just don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if your GM is hostile, okay, but then maybe that whole thing should be broken up and not happening. Yes, they can be service tops, yes, but service tops need to be having fun too. Yes, Jer. Yes, I agree. I feel like my GM has been not having much fun lately in our game, but it's because our plans as players just tend to work out. Passed all stealth tests, crit perceptions, destroyed a boss in one round because we get set up really well. Don't really know how to fix it. Oh, see, this is really interesting, Drummer Boy, because this is also about play style, right? So, like, I am not a narrativist GM. I can fake one on stream, like I can do it. I can run a narrativist game. I can do it. But that is not my home space. My home space is a simulationist world. So I'm never bothered by those things. Like, if the players end up having, like, all their plans work out, that's fine with me. Like, it doesn't bother me at all, because that's how the simulation works. Like, for me, I'm interested to see how the simulation plays out, so I'm never bothered by PC success or PC failure. To be honest, I'm interested. I will be bothered if the system is not set up right? Like, if there are things about the system that are not working, that will frustrate me. Or, I mean, I get frustrated when players do things out of character just to mess with me. Like, why would you do that? Or mess with other players? I don't like that. Like, don't do that. Like, I'll get messed up with people who, like, do bad metagaming, people who mess with things or cheat, break character, do things that make no sense just to mess with things. That will frustrate me. Like, that will frustrate me. I will not like that at all. Yeah, like, if I'm with Krellin, like, if a player, I will make dinner, come back. If the plan goes flawlessly, that's so cool. Like, I will enjoy that very much, because, again, I don't have a pre-planned, if I'm playing in a narrativist game, then that is what I'm doing, and that is what I will do, and it's fine, right? But in my home space, I don't have plans. My NPCs have plans, but I don't have plans. I don't have goals other than making sure everybody has I have my own kind of goals, but they're not, like, my goals as a GM are to challenge characters and see what happens. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to give them, I see you, Jer. I see you. It's fine. You know what? I'm not even gonna be mad about it. Jer. I guess I just felt bad because they built up the mini boss as this kind of awesome scary dude and we just roasted them. But that's awesome. And roll concentration checks. Like, I think I actually really like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, hold on a second. Let me do this. No. Let me do that. Yes. I'm giving us pleasant background music. Is what I'm giving us. I think, and here's the thing, and this is where, again, about that legendary mini boss, I am not a narrativist at heart. At heart, I'm a person who really loves emergent narrative. I love the story emerging out of what happens rather than having a story that I have an aim towards. That is not like that's, and like, I know, and one of the reasons why I see the narrativist gamist simulationist thing, why it resonates with me, is because actually I totally see it. I think it's more complicated than the author Ron Edwards originally wrote, and I think it's a bit more messy. But if my character dies through something stupid, and I think the rules are fair, I am not going to be mad about it. I'll be sad my character died, but as long as the rules are fair, I'm fine with that. And as long, and like I actually don't think 5e's mechanics are not my most favorite, because I don't think rolling one dice gives you really good probabilities. So then you get probabilities that sort of kind of fall outside of realism for that thing in ways that make me a little bit less happy. But it's life. But for me, I want to know. Yeah, my salad arm PC got crippled because it totally made sense. It was amazing, right? It was so cool because here we are. We're all playing with stabby rapiers, and we get hit with somebody with a club, and clubs will take out your knees, and it was like perfect. It was like just the best. It made sense, and it gave me sort of an interesting challenge for my character. I was about it. So for me, I just don't like, my goals as a GM are to make sure that everybody's characters have things to do. I present them with things to do. If the player does not take up those things, that will frustrate me. Right? Like, my job is like, I want to make sure that all the players have things to do, and that I challenge their characters in ways that lead to some kind of possibility of change or not, right? That's interesting. Like, that's my goal. And I can do that with anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, and when I say challenge, I don't mean that the mini boss is hard. I just mean, because, I mean, honestly, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, if sometimes the mini boss might be super easy, and that might be an interesting challenge. What does it mean to your character if you can beat somebody up so very easily? I did that once. I gave some players a challenge where the people they were fighting were like super underpowered compared to them. Like, they were way stronger than these people, because the people were like street gangs. It was like little street gang people who were like 18-year-old street gangs without a lot of fire. It's a cyberpunk game, and there was like these street gangs are like, we're so tough, we're gonna beat you up, and like, they were not strong or powerful people, and our players were. The players had like big guns and armor and like cyber tech and all this stuff, and these were just like pretty weak teenagers, and the players decided to kill them. And they did, and it was not a hard fight. Like, they took them out real easy. And that in itself was a bit of a challenge. I wanted to know how the PCs were going to respond to that. How did they feel about the fact that they just slaughtered some like stupid teenagers who thought they were tough with leather jackets? You know what I mean? And some of them were bothered by it and decided to do different things in the world. Some of them didn't care. And whatever happened, that was interesting to me. Like, I was interested to find out what would happen there. So like, for me, I'm just interested to know. So that's where my fun comes in. The PC reaction when they gear up to fight and kill someone the first one, they go, oh, they died. Like, that becomes interesting to me. And of course, they didn't just beat them because the mechanics of the system are not very good. It's because those people were not strong people, and I wanted them to think about what that meant, right? And having them think about that. And so, like, as a GM, I just want to give players things to do, and to have them challenge them a little bit about what they think about the world. That's all I want. So if they win fights right away, or if they lose fights, none of that is what I'm here for. I'm just interested in seeing what happens. And so, like, I'm never disappointed. Like, I'm never frustrated if they win or if they don't win, because that's not, like, I'm not here to control that. I'm here to find out what happens. And here's a really good example. I was running this espionage game, and this was the game that had the TPK. This was my only TPK, like full TPK. Like, everybody died. Everybody died. All of the PCs. It was not like everybody but one, like they all died. Simulationist gaming is the only way I can play at this point, because I need player agency, because my fun is setting up a character and seeing how they change in reaction to the situation they find themselves in. But Evie, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't find that fun at all, because the downside of PH, yeah, no, Jer was just like, oh no, I see how this is going. Whoop. The downside, if let's just say the downside, like the negatives for simulationist gaming, which I like, right? Like, I like it, so I don't think of it as a narrative, but I understand that there are characters, if you if what you want is a narrative arc with a strong beginning, middle, and end, you may not like the simulationist game at all, because it may not give you that. It may not give you a satisfying, and actually, this goes right back to Game of Thrones. I know a lot of people who are Game of Thrones fans who did not like book 5 because it meandered, it wandered. It was like George Martin likes to set up the garden and see where they go. And people were like, this is dragging. We want, like, where's this going? This is, now you're adding more stuff and some of the things don't go anywhere. Like, what are you doing? And that's not satisfying for them. They want a story where you start off as a 0, you build yourself up, and then you confront the big bad guy at the end, and then you win. Like, they want that. Or you die tragically in a big sacrifice, saving the village. Like, they want that satisfying story that they are used to getting from traditional media. And they do not like failing their roles and then not being able to, like, I mean, so that there's a reason why so many narrativist RPGs have been happening the last 15-20 years. There's a 15 years. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why more and more games are eliminating the possibility of failure. See, but that's how you are, EB. I also appreciate that style, but a lot of people don't want it. They think it's boring, right? Just like there are people who don't like slice of life anime. They're like, this is boring, nothing happens. You know what I mean? Or I think about, like, it is a general thing to say when I'm thinking about some of these newer games. Woo! Hello, an unexpected follower. You posted link. I'm sorry that links are for our regulars and unexpected follower. Don't worry about it though. What was your link? What did you want to link to? Tell us, and we can maybe get it posted for you. Tell me about it. Welcome in, an unexpected follower. How are you? And just let me know what you wanted to post a link to. So it's partially why I didn't watch much GSTV. A lot of the storytelling was to push the narrative forward. And the thing is, a lot of people really want that, especially if they're watching their RPGs on stream. Like, I'm not mad about it. And like, I get it. Like, I get people's frustration, and I understand when I think about so take the whole philosophy behind Gumshoe. The whole philosophy behind Gumshoe is that you don't have the player's role to gather information in investigative games because it's not fun and it stops the narrative if they don't find the clues, right? The whole idea is that if you don't find the clue, the narrative stops, and that's not fun. And to think that, right, that means that you have you have an idea of what a satisfying narrative is. In that model, if they don't find the clue, the narrative ends because they're thinking of things in this narrative arc. I don't think of narrative that way. I like narrative in short set arcs and simulation for longer form games, if that makes sense. If you're doing I don't think simulation works well for a short arc at all. Like, if you're doing a one-shot, like, that has to be full on rails. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's a one-shot at a convention, you've got 4 hours to get through a whole thing to make it satisfying. You do not have time for, like, a nice character-driven simulationist game that unfolds. Like, you just don't have the time. And so, like, that's just not going to work out. If I'm doing a one-shot, like, there's going to be stronger rails because we just don't have time to do anything else. Right. And the thing is, the simulation itself won't even work well because the simulation works. Oh, an advertisement bot, whatever. If you don't have the, it's funny. I think it's the first time we got that. Huh. Just chatting. Like, simulationism needs time to breathe. Do you know what I mean? Like, it needs time to breathe. It needs players who are willing to take on responsibility for driving their characters forward. It needs a bunch of things, and if you don't have the time or you don't have the players, it's just not going to work out very well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't it doesn't work out well. And I see that. Like, I see it. I have seen this be a problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have. And I've seen it in problems, usually not with the full group, but I've seen it in problems with, like, one player who's clearly not made for a simulationist game. I've seen it happen. Like, in a different context, over a beverage at a bar, I would tell you about some of those things that I would not tell you about on stream. I can even do, like, you can do simulationism monthly, because I've played monthly games, but you need really good note takers and people who are really into it. And you just need time to let it build. Like, you just really need that time. But like, I get it. Like, but like, so I was saying, for me, I don't think PC failure ends the narrative. I imagine that there can be detectives who don't solve crimes. And if they don't solve the crime, I don't think the narrative is destroyed. I think that becomes the new narrative. But there are people who cannot, that's not how they experience the game, and they're not gonna like it. Do you know what I mean? They're not gonna enjoy that at all. You know, a thing that happened in my 40K game last week might have been due to a difference in player and GM styles. Oh, what happened, Krellin? That seems interesting. Because it's in many ways it's really philosophical, right? Like, how do you, like, do you think, what are you here for? What is your relationship to failure? Maggie loves failure. She's great for me to play with because she accepts the dice as telling a kind of a truth, whereas some people are like, no, that's not what I want to. So like, there's like different, and she won't get frustrated, whereas some people will get frustrated. So you really have to sort of work out what's going on there. We encountered a group with a blood curse, and our lore expert figured out that they might be able to cure it, and we talked to the group to get more info. Okay. Tell me more. By the way, Jer was right. We're just talking RPGs today. That is a true statement. That is fair. I don't know what our thing is. I've always been the crazy note taker for the group, usually via an in-character journal. I write them as a way to think about my character story. Oh, yeah, I love that. I'm the note taker for Arissa's group, and I have to get the now that graduation is tomorrow, and after it's over, I get to put up the write-ups for the last few sessions. During that conversation, yes, notes. Well, Sunday, well, not this Sunday, because this Sunday is graduation, but this coming week I get to put them up because we've got a week. During that conversation, it was mentioned that this thing happening somewhere else usually resulted in the place being completely abandoned, abducted. Sort of a please cure us before going to disappear sort of thing. But the lore expert player thought it was the GM saying, this is the next plot point you need to do, instead of this is the consequence of delaying this. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Right, I see failure as another part of the story, like it's just a different kind of a story. Oh, I have that kind of issue, I guess, where I'm looking for a narrative in a simulation type game and found one that I really like. The game shifts, the narrative I like so much is out of reach. Yeah, so like it's really important to know, are we going for a gamist game? And so, okay, so here's the thing. People right now are saying, oh, gamism, simulationism, narrativism, oh, that's old language, we don't need anymore. Like, we're not into it. Like, it's not useful. It doesn't make any sense. But I find it is really useful to find out if we're on the same page. I need to know if, as a player, you want me as the GM to drive the narrative. I need to know that so that I can prepare that kind of a game for you. And I need you as a player to know what kind of GM I'm going to be, how I'm going to be GMing in this moment. So, for example, is this a game where if I dangle a thing, that is a plot point that I expect you to follow and that you as good players are going to follow it? Or is it one of many options which maybe you shouldn't follow? Like, because like as a simulationist GM, because again, remember, I will do multiple different styles depending on what people want. But if I'm doing a real simulationist thing, I will put out lots of different hooks that exist in the world, and some of them may be bad for you to follow up on. Some of them may be good. It gets up to you, but like you do not have, like I do not, if you don't follow up on this one or that one, I'm not going to be mad at you because the game is still going to go on. But there are games that if you don't follow that plot hook, the game is going to be derailed, and good players in that style are going to take that plot hook. Otherwise, you know what I mean? Like, and that's like just a fundamental mismatch about what we think being a good player is and what we think the GM is doing. So it's really like you just have to know. I think a show like The Gauntlet that Hyper did would have been popular if everyone was on the same page. Oh, I totally agree with you. I still think that something like The Gauntlet could be really, really good, but not everybody was on the same page about as to what that was, and I don't think it was conceived with a real... like, it wasn't conceived of with a good, coherent sense of what that game was supposed to be. And I still think, and I still think a good arena show can be successful can find an audience. And I want to do it in GURPS, but I can't, and that makes me sad. As a player, I need to know if I need to have a character that is optimized for the system, or I can build a character that's just interesting for me to play. Yes. Yeah, like there are a lot of things we need to know that people often don't have. We don't have these conversations, and that's a real bummer. And it's not even just optimized, like, because for example, a character that is optimized for the system might be fun for you to play, right? So, but what does that mean? Why can't you? I have been in games where I couldn't play a game that was fun. Could not make a character that was fun for me to play. I'm sorry, let me reframe that. I could not make a character that was not optimized. I was in a group that this was a real problem. It was a real problem. It was a D&D 3.5 game, and it was gamist is all. Oh, why can't I do the GURPS Arena thing? Oh, because right now I don't want to stream Steve Jackson games because of their reaction to the Bill Webb thing. And unless they can come up with some kind of way to emphasize that they care about people's safety more than they care about working with Bill Webb, I don't feel comfortable giving them energy on stream. Like, I mean, and it's a problem because I love that system. It is my favorite system. I love it. I mean, I like other systems as well, but there's so many, like, I think it's the best system for an arena game. I think it's the best, and I would love to do an arena game in GURPS, but I care about people's safety more than I care about game systems that I love. Do you know what I mean? So I cannot in good conscience run a GURPS stream right now. Now, I mean, I'm hoping that they will do something and change that up, and then that'll change. But until they do, I can't, and that makes me really sad. Makes me sad, you know? But that's the thing. So I was playing a 3.5 game, and it was super gamist. Like, it was a gamist game is what it was. It was full-on gamism, and that's what everybody was about. And what did that mean? That meant that people were fine with me RPing if I wanted to. Not too much, because it would get in the way of like what we were there for. But there was one continual sense of tension, and this was the game where I was playing my rogue. It is difficult not to play 3.5 in a gamist style. I mean, I think it's doable, but it's difficult. Yeah, the system just encourages it too much, and the people who play it are often playing for that, right? That's what it's there for. Shadowrun has been punishing enough to play that I spend a lot of time making my characters optimal for their expected role, but then just go bonkers after creation. My detector becomes a compass stream assist, for example. And that's fine. Interesting system yesterday using 2 deck of cards. What system? So I was playing a rogue, right? And this was a game where we started at level 20, because it was an epic game. So we started at level 20, and then we were going to sort of get epic levels. And I was like, I want to play rogue. I'm going to play level 20 rogue. And when we were having this character creation discussion before we actually did it, before the game started, the rest of the players were like, no, don't play a level 20 rogue. You have to multi-class, because if you don't multi-class, you will not be optimal. Like, you have to multi-class. Yeah. And I'm agreeing with Krellin. And I didn't want to multi-class. And they were like, look, to be the most effective rogue, what you need to do is take 7 levels of rogue, you need this, and then you need to multi-class in this, and then you'll be able to do the most optimal thing. And I was like, look, my character concept is a mob boss, and I don't want to multi-class. So that was a big set of tension, because what they saw was that I was not going to be pulling my weight in the challenges we were going to be having, and that was a problem for them. So they let me play a non-multi-classed character. They weren't particularly happy about it, but like that was the compromise. And then the compromise happens that when we start getting our epic levels, there was a prestige class that was a mob boss. It was the Thieves Guild leader. It was I think it was in maybe Waterdeep or in one of the expansion books. And I was like, oh, this character concept matches this prestige class matches my character concept perfectly. I should start taking levels in basically Thieves Guild leader. And the other players were like, no, that does not aid you in combat at all. Doing that is not good for the group. You cannot take that prestige class. We do not care that it matches your character concept. You need to take Master Thrower. Like, Master Thrower is what's going to aid in the group. And I did it. Like, I took Master Thrower because I understood that if people did not play optimal characters, it would make it less likely that we could actually beat the challenges. And so for what the purpose of that particular campaign was, or what that game was, I would be letting down the team, right? I would be making it harder for everybody because I wouldn't do this prestige class thing. So I took a prestige class that I didn't really want to take, that wasn't really part of my character's concept, because I needed to for the group. Yeah, I think it was Waterdeep. And you know, and I understood that that was what you needed to do in a gamist game. I also then told them that after that campaign was over, I was not going to play with them anymore because I wanted more RP in my gaming. And I ended up playing with them longer. I still played with them. I still did. But I was really like, that was, I was not about to just be an egotist and just play my character the way I wanted it and mess up the rest of the group. So I compromised and I did things to my character I didn't really want to do because it was better for the group and how that particular group playstyle was. And if I'm going to play in that game with that particular playstyle, then I'm going to do it. So I did. But we had discussions about later things to do. Beat to quarter, honor and duty. The GM flips a card that designates the trump. Then both the player and GM flip a number of cards from their decks, depending on how many skill points they have. Oh, that's interesting. Castle Falkenstein used 2 decks of cards. Capers uses cards. Clockwork Dominion uses cards. The old Doomtown used cards. Phoenix Zero Dawn. Phoenix Dawn Command uses cards. I think there's a way to use cards in Fate. Besides dice, I think you can use cards in Fate. There's like a Fate deck for Fate. Same suit as trump card as success. Same number as a critical success. Same card as a phenomenal success, and then they compare hands. Huh. Interesting. Huh. I'd want to see what the probabilities are for that, like what the probabilities are like, to see how that would play out. I'd be interested in that one. I like cards. Yeah. So, I mean, if I'm playing a gamist game, then I'm gonna have to make a. And the thing is, there are gamist players. I played in that campaign for a couple of years, and they're not bad players. How they play is not wrong. It's just a particular style that didn't give me space to do. And look, I understand that in that game, everybody needs to pull their weight or else there'll be a TPK, right? So I understand that it's important. I will also point out, however, that GM's interpretation of the rules which Krellin has pointed out was an incorrect interpretation, by the way. But his interpretation of the rules made my character pretty pointless no matter what I did. So I mean, I worked really hard. There was a lot of work going on to make my character not useless. So I got a custom magic item, which was a ring of greater blink, so that I could almost always get sneak attack damage. Because I was a halfling rogue with daggers. If I did not get sneak attack damage, I was doing 1d3 damage in an epic level campaign. I will tell you in a second, Krellin. The balance is very slightly in the player's favor because the GM can't draw the trump card from his own deck twice. Oh, okay. As a halfling rogue that's dex based, right? Most of the time I'm doing 1d. If I cannot get sneak attack damage, I'm doing 1d3 damage, and we're dealing with epic level monsters, which means if I don't get sneak attack damage, I don't do squat. So I got that ring of greater blink. Yeah, if I'm not using sneak attack, I ain't doing nothing. So I got that ring so that I could almost always get sneak attack damage. But, and here's the rules of interpretation that Krellin says is wrong, that made my life pretty miserable. And that was, the GM interpreted damage resistance rules and sneak attack rules to mean if you do not penetrate, if you do not do damage with your base attack, you cannot get the sneak attack damage. So what that means is if the monster has damage reduction 10, for example, and I surprise them, and I cannot get through that 10 damage resistance with my base damage, which is 1d3 plus 2 or whatever, then I don't get the sneak attack damage. And I think this had to do with I think this was like an interpretation that had to do with poisons as well, because I don't think that you got to attach poison if you didn't get through damage reduction. Right, so here I'm playing this epic level rogue in a gamist game, and we regularly fought monsters that did not have vitals, so I got no sneak attack. We regularly fought monsters that had damage reduction, so I didn't get sneak attack, despite the fact that I had this ring of improved blinking. So we've got a level 20 magic user doing time stop and gazillion points of damage all the time, and our level 20 fighter that's just able to use their massive damage, doing like everybody's doing massive damage, and I've got 1d3 on a dagger at least half the time. At least half the time I'm doing 1d3 damage at best. And I mean, yeah, I was doing 10d6 sneak attack damage if I got it, but so often I was not getting it. And it was... So here's the thing. For me, RP was the only thing I had, because most of the time I was completely screwed over. And so I was like, I will be here with a character that's not doing much, but this is why they wanted me to multiclass into some kind of magic user, because that rogue was not doing much of anything. And we needed the DPS, right? We needed the damage. But I was like, I don't know why you need my damage, because you've got a mage that can just do time stop and then set off a whole bunch of high damage spells and kill everything before we even get to do anything. I don't know what the point is. Krellin asked if there were skill challenges that at least my skills were useful for, and 3.5 was really broken, and this was it was really broken. There were skill challenges, but the players all came from 1E. They've been playing for a long time, and they tended to think of non-combat things as being a little bit pointless, as being the filler in between the actual stuff, which was the combat. So it was always really big set pieces with cool miniatures and whatnot, but all the sort of skill challenges in between were filler. So the things that I was actually good at, like talking to people, people thought of as wasting time before getting to the real stuff in the game. So it was awkward. And I was like, look, we cannot, like, when this campaign is over, I'm not playing anymore. Right, you know, I was like, look, I'm gonna, and I did it. I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do, but I was like, I'm not playing in another campaign with this group. I'm not playing more D&D. But they really liked having me as a player. Like, they really liked what I brought to the table. They did enjoy me. And so they did make some changes, but I will tell you, to be honest, is this a group why I say no gaming is better than bad gaming? No, because I had worse groups. But they were one of them, Krellin. They're one of them where I was like, I would rather not play than be in this situation, because this is, and look, they aren't bad people. This was just not working for me. But you know what? You want to know what ended up happening with this group is I convinced them to let me GM GURPS for them. And after I GM'd a Traveler, GURPS Traveler for them, and they loved it, and they played completely differently than they did in 3.5. Like, they really opened up their RPing. I mean, they just transformed into completely different kinds of players using this different system. It was kind of shocking. And after I GM'd GURPS for them and they changed their style and they opened up to new styles, they started playing games other than D&D 3.5, and they became a lot better to play with. After that, after I GM'd GURPS for them, then the regular D&D GM ended up running a Mutants and Masterminds campaign, which was fun and great, and everybody played really differently again. And then he got into Savage Worlds, and again, really different play styles. I think it was not. Yes, I think it's the system's fault. I think, and look, people say this all the time. People say it all the time, and it's not untrue. People get very defensive, and they'll say, but you can play RP heavy games in D&D. That's not fair. You can play RP heavy in any kind of system. You can, right? Like, you can technically do anything you want in any kind of a system, but not all systems. But some systems you have to work harder against, right? Some systems you have to work harder against than other systems. Like, I play RP Heavy Monopoly, and like, you can do that, but some systems do not help you, and some systems actively work against you. It's not a bad person thing. It's I have limited free time, and I need to have fun, and something to do at least semi-regularly, or why am I here? Mm-hmm. If you read 3.5 rules with certain preconception, it can be seen to say that combat is the only behavior that is rewarded. You can sit in a car all day and not go anywhere. And this is right. And like Krellin points out, and it is true, that it says explicitly in 3.5 rules that you can get XP for things other than combat. It says that. But when you come into D&D from a particular kind of mindset, that just often doesn't stick. And here's the thing I will say about D&D 3.5. I think it's different with 5e. And I don't know how it is with 4e, so I cannot say. And again, you can play 3.5 in different ways. I'm not saying you can't. But one of the things that I really noticed about this particular group, who were super gamist, and I don't mean that as an insult, is that, and this is one of the reasons why I played with them for 6 years, probably. 6 or 7 years I played with them. I played with them the entire time I lived in Los Angeles, so maybe 6 or 7 years. Is that it took years for me to convince them to play anything other than D&D 3.5. Years. And I'm talking about a one-shot even. And I was like, I will GM it, something other than D&D 3.5. And it took me years to convince them to do anything other than that. And what I saw with this group was that they all had system mastery. And when I say system mastery, I mean they owned every book, including the miniature book. And they also had large chunks of it memorized. And I really saw this when we were doing this epic campaign, where we were talking about this, my character was like, I want to do this rogue, here's my concept. And they were like, well, if there's a feat in the miniatures handbook that if you take it, it will allow you to do this. And the other person was like, right. Now there's a prestige class in the book that's about desert environments, where if you take that particular, like, they knew, like, there were so many books with so many prestige classes, so many feats, and they owned them all, and they had memorized them all. And so they knew how to create the most combat optimal character based on all of these supplements. And that is a level of effort and knowledge they spent time on, and they didn't want to give it up by playing some other game. If they switched over to playing Savage World, they didn't know all that stuff. All that system mastery that they spent all of that time and effort gaining was now useless and out the window. So they didn't want to play new games, right? Like, they didn't want to play new games because of the ways, and it's not just system mastery, it's also money, because D&D back then was explicitly selling books to players, right? So the players owned a library of books, and they spent money on it, and they didn't want to go and like waste that money by playing some other game system. Now, a lot of games are selling primarily to GMs, and if the GM wants to play a new system, like, players have not invested money in that system. They may have invested time, but not necessarily money, so it's not as hard to convince players to switch over, if you know what I mean, like, for systems that are not set up that way. But we haven't even seen a cliff this stream, much less fallen off of one. I know. I'm just trying to avoid dying, Pumpkin. It is true. It is true. But I do. I think it's like a real. I think it's a real. And Wizards of the Coast, also White Wolf, they specifically sold, like, the old model, right? The old model was that you sell to GMs. You sell them books and you sell them modules, and like the sales go to GMs. That's who your buying market is. And players, you give them a player's handbook maybe, but they're not your main. Like, they buy accessories, they buy miniatures and dice and things like that, but really books go to the GM. But with the sort of the turn towards splat books out of White Wolf and then D&D and some other books, where you're specifically selling to players, that changes the dynamic of things, right? That changes the dynamic of what people do. We fell into the void of RPG theory. It's true. It's true. And I saw it. I saw what that felt like in this game, and I understand why they didn't want to play anything other than D&D. But once I convinced them to play something other than D&D, they completely changed. It was amazing to me. And so I do think a combination of the system and the preconceived notions around that system can really lock people into a kind of play style that that sometimes you just need to switch systems to get out of. I want to play Good Society Jersey Shore so bad. So bad. I just want you to know it. So bad. And I really think when we talk about Vampire, but not just, like, there's certain games, hey, Be Right, it's kind of like human nature. Academia, when a new theory comes in that conflicts with received wisdom, for example, that's right. It takes time to accept, even though it may be good. We seem to all too often be looking for validation rather than truth good. Yeah, I think that's true. But also, I really do think that system matters, and that system constrains how you imagine things being, and that sometimes you just need something different to be able to then rethink. Because it's true, you could play D&D like a super narrativist game where you never roll ever and you just tell stories and the rules never even come into effect. You can totally do that. It's just hard to do that when the rules kind of set up this framework for you, right? Like, it's hard to do it. And I think that I've seen it be difficult for people. And when I think about something like Call of Cthulhu being one of them, Vampire, Powered by the Apocalypse, Dogs in the Vineyard, these various games that have come out that have really challenged the assumptions of how an RPG can work, then people go, oh, I never thought about it that way. And that might mean they end up playing D&D differently, or they then just move into different systems, or they come back to D&D in a different way, but I do think that system matters to help at least give you a new context and frame for how something can be. That moment when you're 4 hours into a D&D game and haven't rolled that session. And I think about, like, there are these fundamental things that are in the systems that color how you see things. For example, Dungeons & Dragons has levels, which means a goal is built into your concept of what you're doing, and that is to level up. And so leveling up becomes something that is a marker of success, and that if you don't level up, then somehow that's less successful than if you do. In Call of Cthulhu, there are no levels. There aren't any. There are no milestones. You don't get XP. Like, you don't get XP in Call of Cthulhu. So all of a sudden, how you conceive of success or what you're even doing in that game is going to be very, very different, just because of how the mechanics work. And that becomes, and then once you get shifted into a new mindset, that changes what you think you're doing and how you're going to play. Insanity is XP, but it's not good experience. It's bad experience. Oh. And I think I will say this about D&D. I think one of the reasons why D&D is so successful, I mean, one, of course, is that they're the first game, right? And they have the biggest name, and so there's something about a particular kind of momentum that makes it very successful. And it also, right, but I also think that D&D has so many built-in assumptions that people like goals. Yeah, people like goals. Krellin is right. D&D has so many built-in assumptions that it's easy to play. And by that, I mean, I can say to Krellin, make a first level character. And what, if I say we're going to play D&D, make a first level character, I can say that to you, and you know, okay, I need to I'm going to make a character that's going to be good at combat. It's going to be competent at it. We're probably going to go exploring things. It's going to be kind of like we'll go into dungeons, we'll fight monsters, we'll get treasure. All right, there's magic. Like, you know what the world is like, even if there's no world. You know what your character is going to be doing. There are all these assumptions that you already have, and that allows people who've never played together to be able to play together relatively quickly. Like, I think that the thing about Dungeons & Dragons is that it sort of tells you what kind of, like, there's a base assumption of what kind of campaign you're doing that's already built in. Same thing with Shadowrun, actually. Shadowrun has a base assumption, and that is you are going to be Shadowrunners doing infiltration to do kind of crimey crimes. Like, there's like a bit of an assumption built in, and you can do an alternate campaign. But if I just said to you, we're going to play Shadowrun, you can make a character and have a sense of what that campaign is going to be like. Same thing with Call of Cthulhu. You know you're going to be an investigator investigating eldritch horrors. But if I said to you, we're going to play a Savage World campaign, you don't know what that means. If I said to you, we're going to play a GURPS campaign, you don't know what that means. So some of these other games are looser and give you more freedom, but there's no built-in base assumption about what you're going to be doing. Yes, no, Krellin is correct. Because Krellin knows me. If I said we're going to be playing a D&D game, Krellin's going to want to know some more information about what do I mean by that? And that is why I'd be happy, because I would know that you would want to know more information, because you would know that I would know that you would know that I would want more information, so then you would want the information because I would know that you would know that I would want it. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So yeah, so I think that there's a way in which there's a particular kind of ease in games with really strong top-down concepts like D&D, Shadowrun, Call of Cthulhu, that makes it just easy to kind of pick up and go. Like grab a module, go. Invisible Sun is harder. A bunch of games, but you know that I know that you know that I know. Pentuple agent. And so I think there are reasons why D&D is successful. Like, and I don't think that's bad, but I do think that a really strong top-down concept like that can lend to particular preconceived notions and thinking that can limit, but those limits can be good. But they can also lead to a situation where I was like, well, what am I doing here? I sneak attack. Oh, undead, never mind. Now, yeah, there's like an ease of access, I think, that happens with games like that. I would like to see Critical Role's next campaign be some game other than D&D. Krellin. Me too. They should get Taliesin to GM a VTM game or something. Yeah, or like a Mage the Ascension game. I bet Taliesin could do Mage really well. I would love to see them play a game other than D&D. I really would. And I'd really love to see it, not only because I think it would be interesting, but also because some of those players, this was their first RPG. Like D&D was their first RPG, and they don't have experience playing non-D&D games. And I would like to see how they would respond to playing non-D&D. He did one-shots, right? He did that one-shot. I would love to see them do a longer running campaign of something different, where they get to really dig into a different characters and dig into a different kind of system. It was a 2-shot, yeah. It makes me think, Rissa says, it makes me think about how Bill took such pains to match his campaign concepts with a system that would give him the feeling that he wanted. Yes. His AU Lord of the Rings game in Big Eye, Small Mouth, for example. Yes. Hey, Bolus Dude. Vox Machina, Furniture Edition, Rogue Chair, Barbarian Door. Ooh. I don't think they have time for that. Well, I mean, sooner or later, the Mighty Nine campaign is going to end, right? Sooner or later, it will come to a close, and then what is the next game they're going to play? Will they do... Now, I imagine there are other things going on, right? Like, I imagine that we're going to get another campaign guide from Mercer that's going to cover... Xhorhas and the Empire, Wildmount. And they would have to find new... I think there are a lot of things that... Right, so I imagine we're going to get a new source book out of this campaign, and maybe Mercer then is going to want to do another campaign set in this world in a different part of the world, so we get a third source book. They also have D&D Beyond as their main campaign sponsor. Like, there are a lot of reasons why... there are reasons why it might be difficult for that third campaign to be a non-D&D campaign. But you know what, though? I would love it if we had... And not a one-shot or a two-shot. Like, not like a 3... Like, we've seen Marisha running Honey Heist. That's awesome. But I would love a long... But one-shots are not the same thing as campaigns. The way you invest in characters is different. The way the stories go is different. I would love to see... another campaign with a different mix of players in a different system that is going to be a longer game. Critters are going to be upset, though. And this campaign is going to run for another couple more years, right? Like, we're probably going to get another, what, 3 years of this? What level are they right now? What level are they? Are they like 7 or 8? Is that right? 8? Critters were fine with VM ending. Fine-ish. They'll get over it. Level 9. Thank you, Krellin. They'll get over it. It's true. I wonder how long. I wonder how many more years we're going to get with this, with Vox Mach, with the Mighty Nine. I
don't know if I'd call them millionaires. The Kickstarter money isn't theirs. This is true. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Because that money is, yeah. VTM, I don't know. The things might be too dark, and honestly, anything Zach X's touch is a little icky. He didn't actually have that much to do with the new edition. I don't think he had anything to do with the new edition of VTM. I believe what he did was that he did art and wrote the script for the VTM visual novel game, the little sort of iOS game they came out with. That is what he did, but I don't believe he has anything to do with the RPG. I think they said it is all going into the cartoon. Yes. So, I mean, we will see what's going on. Anyway, I want to see what's going on. And I'd be interested to see what... I'm interested to see how this is going to go. Come on, Wrist. Don't be stupid. That's... Yeah. And of the two VN games they released, the VTM one is way worse. Yeah, so my understanding is that he really only had something to do with the VTM game. That is my understanding of... what's going on. Let me see what's happening over here. What is happening? Raid and host. Hey, everyone. I should do... Oh. Visual novel. Oh. The Mage VN on stream. I could do it, couldn't I? I could do it because it's on Steam and I own it, so I could do it. That is a thing I could do. Krellin? I will... Why Mage? I feel like Taliesin has the kind of esoteric knowledge that where he would do a Mage game very well. Oh, we're talking about my video game streams. You know, the streams where I play video games, like this one. Right? Like, here we go. Just like their stream today, where all I do is I play RPGs. That's what I do. That's what I'm doing. All right, look, it is 3:30. I should go and eat food. We did not play Horizon Zero Dawn today, but we will do it next Saturday for reals, though. For reals. So what's up next? Thursday, I will be playing Where the Water Tastes Like Wine at 6 p.m. and then hosting Geek Space TV. VTM on Twitch sounds dangerous, but that's most likely just due to how I think of playing that system. I also can't see a Dark Heresy game working, but I know that Roll4 did one, it didn't get banned. Oh, Horizon Zero playtime. That is funny. Well, you know, Evie, I've watched 2 VTM streams. Geek and Sundry has their VTM stream, LA by Night, which is great, and Roll4 just finished up their Sounds of Silence, their VTM stream, which was also very good. So that's 2 different streams VTM streams I've seen on Twitch that both worked really well, so that were not banned in any way. So it clearly happens, and actually, oh, no worries, Left-Handed Monkey Wrench. It will happen. I love talking about RPGs. So there clearly are lots of VTM streams that are happening and are not being banned. So, you know, it clearly happens. And it's having a bit of a Renaissance comeback. So this is what we're gonna do. Besides not playing. Oh, right. Next Saturday, I was distracted again. Next Saturday, I will also be playing Horizon Zero Dawn. Next Saturday. This is going to happen. This is... you should. I don't mind not being at the con. This was fun. You can go to the con the next time. You should get back to watching streams. But... you know, here's what's gonna happen, folks. I'm streaming next Thursday. I get so distracted. Next Thursday at 6. Next Saturday at noon. That's what I'm doing. And I'm hosting Geekspace TV, Manner of Speaking, Thursday night. Salixon will be hosting Critical Role. Also, I'm GMing Clockwork Dominion at Gen Con on Thursday and Saturday. It is Clockwork Dominion. The scenario is In for a Penny. If you want to be a player at one of my tables, you can go pick up tickets for that. They go on sale on Sunday. So, you know. In other words, Trooper will be streaming what? Well, we shall see. I mean, we're going to find out what happens. I feel like it's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point. So you can pick up tickets. I'm in talks to see if I can start a reading stream of Atlanta Nights, the worst novel ever. I will be playing on the Greyhawk channel starting January the 7th, which is Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, a D&D campaign where I will be a player. So that's very exciting with some, which will be really good. Nice tiny trip to where? A distraction. I'm not taking a trip anywhere. I'm here. Oh, all right. Let's do a raid. I think we should do a raid because we haven't done one in a while. January? Oh, you know, I enjoy very much talking about video. June 7th. Thank you, Jer. This is why Jer is my mod, especially when I'm on medication. Jer will be like, no, June 7th. Where is the con is in Indianapolis. It's Gen Con, it's in Indianapolis, and it is the first week of August. It's like July the 31st to August 3rd, something like that. So that is where I'll be gymming it. And that's what I'm doing. So that's the con, July the 31st to August 3rd, something like that. If you and look, tiny trip to the States. And here's the thing I want to tell you: I do not have to nobody has asked me to advertise this game that I'm GMing, because they always they fill up. But I was like, I've got a whole bunch of battle buddies, and if I would love to GM for you all. So, you know, if you want to. You have to win the lottery. I need to win the lottery. I need to play the lottery. So I want to thank everybody who's been here for our stream today, even though we did not actually chat. Thank you, Jer, for catching that. You all are wonderful. We have a Discord. If you want to join us on Discord, please do. I also have a Twitter. If you want to join me on Twitter, that is also fine. I have a YouTube where we archive all of the shows, and you can hang out there and see things you missed as well if you want, or you can see the VOD. You're great. We've got things brewing. That's it. Thank you all for being here. I'm Trooper SJP. This is the Academic Foxhole. And we're going to raid somebody. I think we should raid somebody, and I want to raid. Who can we raid? There are a bunch of folks. We can raid... Oh, you know who we should raid? We should raid a Stenny, because, or, yeah. The name, oh, is 8-Bit Dylan on? Yes, come on everybody. I said, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F or an M will appear. And then I say bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain. Then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Control freak, control freak, control freak, boba. Control freak, banana, fanafo, control freak, fee, fi, mo, control freak. Control freak. thank you so much for the resub, Control Freak. Every sub is much valued, and I appreciate it very much. It makes me feel like, thank you. No raid yet, only songs. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, let's do Dylan. Let's do 8-Bit Dylan, who is playing City of Heroes. Krellin loves City of Heroes, and so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna raid 8-Bit Dylan. So you've got your, we've got the raid command. Let's go over there. If you have some, let's do it. I will see you all next time. We're gonna raid 8-Bit Dylan because 8-Bit Dylan is awesome, and it looks like 8-Bit Dylan is live, so we're gonna do it. We are going to raid 8-Bit Dylan. And I will see you all. I will catch you on the flip side. And let's raid him and say hi to everybody. Remember, this is not a raid. We're going to raid right now. Bye, everybody. Take care. Raiding. Raid.